Hello, YouTube friends. I'd like to follow up on the screen capture of a woman called Kristi Simmonds, who has been adversely affected by the COVID vaccine, a neurological response where she is shaking. She has a shaking, and it's extremely disturbing. I shared the video, I screen captured and shared it off another YouTuber called Paul Cottrell, who I have some difficulty with this YouTuber, Paul Cottrell. He's been talking about the pandemic as though it's perfectly real. The statistics he uses are the official statistics. He goes by the company line in many ways. So I find his channel somewhat suspect and dubious because he's giving a lot of credibility to something that is by laymen. He calls himself a doctor. I think he's an intern, or he's gone through the system and studied. But from observation, like my Monty Python clip, "Bring Out Your Dead." Now that is a true epidemic when people are being carted away in your streets, in your community. That I would say, I would bar the doors. Katie, bar the doors. You see this? There is no problem with health directives that I see if there would be no objection from my point of view to creating to create orders on the for the public good. If you're literally seeing people drop like flies and you got Monty Python coming by with the cart, ding, bring out your dead. Absolutely. However, Paul Cottrell insists that this beer virus is real. Now, there is obviously what I've said before, people are dying, and you now they ascribe a particular kind of death or a particular kind of cause of death to a lot of people that are, it appears, have been affected by what is known to be the flu. And since I'm not a medical expert, but people die all the time. And dying is not a pandemic. Dying is something that happens as a consequence of being alive. So authorities who are now redefining dying into a pandemic, this is, I think, what is fundamentally happening, because then they got us by the short and curlies. If they can just tell us that dying is a disease, dying is not a disease. Dying is a consequence of having lived a life, whether you die by accident or illness or whatever. But now dying is the pandemic. That's what I've said. This is my opinion about how they're manipulating us to get us to think a certain way about the things that we're going through. Anyway, every day, all the time, have been for millions of years, that people go through experiences. Some die very young tragically, and some die even old tragically, but people die, yes. And no, it's not a pandemic. Well, technically, let's say, if something happens, the idea of pandemic means that it's it's everywhere. Yes. So if death is everywhere, yes, technically it is a pandemic. But it's supposed to be an epidemic that's everywhere, which is a pandemic. Anyway, I'm getting sidetracked here because the language is also there to confuse, in order to derail us. So I'm following up on this nurse, and there's obviously always a question in my mind when you get something off a YouTube channel, that the veracity of something. But here's my feeling about this nurse, who I believe, based on what I observed, she's very afraid. And there was a comment or two about how she endorses Moderna, or she's not against vaccines after this happens. This is out bloody rages as well in my mind. Once you've been affected so adversely, and this could be a lifelong affliction she will now have based on this vaccine, just like the thalidomide babies of the 50s, where women were given, pregnant women were given thalidomide to ease the effects of birth in some form or other, and then the babies were deformed. So this is like in mine, in my estimation, what I was thinking about when I saw this woman talk about the vaccine is that we are fundamentally, again, like the white coats did with people in the 50s on thalidomide, for example. There are many instances where the side effects are so brutal and horrible that you say, no, we cannot afford to use this. Even on one person, if one person is affected this badly, oh, the greater good. Well, I think there are other ways of dealing with challenges, physical illnesses, than the white coat's solution, because there are brutal side effects. This is not something I'm making up. This is something that exists in public knowledge, that you create a chemical substance of some kind that the body has never seen before and rejects. Well, maybe you shouldn't take it. So anyway, this idea that even a nurse, and she's overweight and probably has other issues, I can easily see that. But certainly after having taken the vaccine and then having this reaction, there's no doubt in my mind, considering this person is on the level, and of course I haven't vetted it, it's somebody that comes on YouTube and she's shaking. She has a neurological response that has occurred shortly after the vaccine. It's very likely the vaccine, which is why I captured it and reposted it, to say, hey, danger, beware. Something is happening here that maybe wanted to be swept under the carpet and ignore and just keep going. Well, this is out in the public domain, and people have the right to wonder, question, and say the things that they're no longer allowed to say. Whether I'm surprised it's still up on YouTube for me, but because I get so few views, Paul Cottrell said they removed it. He had to remove it from YouTube. He got to remove YouTube, or YouTube just took it away, and he posted it on some other Brighteon or something. So I put a link under that video where you can see the full, another version of her statement about what had happened. So here is, I'm going to lead into something else. I've been wanting to do this, and I put out this, I captured this video because for me, in certain ways, and I don't even think it's less of a feeling for me than to compare it to the 1940s Germany, when people were herded onto boxcars. The effect of this vaccine is is such a threat, as we see in this video. And literally people accepting this, and I think she came out, this Kristi came out and said, and she was afraid that she would be left out to dry if she made any horrible statements about vaccines. She's a nurse, she's been in the profession. So she said, no, I'll step on the boxcar and all of this stuff and stay on it. But hopefully you're going to help me and take care of me. This was an appeal she made on the video. Please help me, because no doctor is willing to treat me for this condition I now have. And how long do I have it? She has enormous courage, I think, to step out and actually put out a video and say what she's saying. So my point is, in my opinion, that this particular time in history is similar to when people were rounded up and put onto the boxcar to be taken to their death, fundamentally, in some form or other. Few survived, most died. And whether or not you physically die, you're going to have an effect that is unknown. You don't know what is this thing going to be like in 3 years, 3 months, 3 years, 30 years. The younger you are, the more dangerous this is, obviously, because you have longer of a life ahead of you. So this is an important question for each person to answer, that when, generally speaking, in the history of vaccines, you usually, and I've had my vaccines, and fortunately, as far as I can tell, there were no bad side effects. It's the smallpox I got, I think in the 50s, smallpox and polio. When the disease was primarily eradicated, they could give you a vaccine and claim that it was their vaccine that eradicated polio and smallpox. when it was already through hygiene eliminated. But anyway, we're talking about something that was supposedly tested for many years, probably a decade. They did tests before they administered it. But now, because it's such a hysteria, it has to happen quickly, and follow the money is always the issue. So in my mind, this is very similar to 40s Nazi Germany, and people feel offended and repulsed by analogies like this. But you be offended, you be repulsed, because the way we are being mistreated now, the way it's like a herd, it's like we're like a herd of cattle being herded into through a very narrow gateway. And the intensity of this is ratcheting up after over a year now. This is not going to subside unless there is a fundamental resistance to this. And there are noble souls out there resisting all the directives to wear the stupid face mask that doesn't work, and then having to confront people in public. When I go to a store, they look at me funny. Yesterday, I don't wear a mask. I said I can't wear a mask. It's none of your business why I can't wear a mask. And up till this point now, it's still somewhat acceptable to the ones in the store to let you in if you don't wear a mask. But what's going through their head? You see, these are compliant people that are saying, why should he be allowed not to wear a mask and I have to? I hate it too, but hey, I'm going to go along with it. Well, that's your choice. You decide what you want to do. I have a conviction here that this is being propagated through it's a very nefarious thing. Now, I want to talk a little bit about the nefarious part of this. And another YouTuber I often listen to, not as much anymore, but I still do, it's this Quantum of Conscience fellow, Matt. And he was talking about what I've always said in terms of when you use the word they. Now, we know the front people, like we have governments that present themselves with leaders and ministers and bureaucrats. And you go down the ladder, you go down the line, you got your top guy and you got your second in command, and then you have this hierarchy that has been presented, which is actually, it goes back forever and ever to the beginning of what we have as recorded history. There's always been this hierarchical structure that somehow is holier than thou, making directives. And we're told, no, it's a democracy and you have choice. Well, we don't have choice. The people that are put in front of us have been selected. And this selection process happens. And now I'm going to go into this, the they. Where does this come from, right? Where is the origin of the they? Who are the they? Who are these nefarious types who have, from the beginning of history, been able to undermine our birthright, to extract the soul out of humanity in a way that works through a hierarchy? Now, my conclusion, and I think Matt touched on this, but I think I want to articulate this even more clearly. He didn't talk about this, that the issue of they is irrelevant. When you are told they, it creates a can of worms in the sense that the they thing will never be discovered. This is the nature of the reality that we're experiencing in terms of we're always looking outside of ourselves, attempting to find the culprits, and you lob their heads off, and the old boss, new boss is the same, and you have revolutions and you end up in the same spot you came from before. This is all part of the way what we understand to be civilization is set up. This is how I understand it. That the phenomena that we consider to be the highest value of our evolution development, called civilization, culture, are fundamentally ritualistic or reenactments of dysfunctional behavior. And some of the things within culture, you have like celebrations, you dance, and you can go into all the things that make you feel good, or you go to a sports event and you have your favorite team. And I am part of this. I have participated in following sports teams that I like, because as a child, when I was growing up in my 10, 11, 12, my father liked a certain team, and then I would, be encouraging that team to win, and I would be disappointed if they'd lose. So these are all things that happen, and I'll say insidiously, to affect the way we understand the reality we live in and accept the reality we live in as absolute. So when we come to the idea of what I've been thinking about, civilization itself and culture, it is something that is handed down from Mount Olympus to everyone. So we have this acceptance. I'll say we have this acceptance that infiltrates through our upbringing from zero. We're born, and I'm not going to get too esoteric about pre-birth or the eternity here. I'm just going to talk about my experience of reality. So as we go through, and this is beautifully talked about, lots of people. I think Steiner and the Montessori people who understand how we're influenced in a positive way and a negative way. And, some have made some progress in terms of education, which is another part of civilization. But education has largely let us down. I'm speaking personally now. Education has let us down, has let me down, because it doesn't encourage the idea that whatever it is that you believe to be absolute, handed down from Mount Olympus, is allowed to be questioned. There are certain things that are taboo in order for us to question. And even in our own mind, if I have a moment of thought, let's say I think this is absolute and I am committed, and it's like, no, there is no other way of seeing the world other than this. This is dangerous. This is very dangerous, because I've always said truth is a moving target. Facts are being manipulated. So the best position to take is one of leaving things on the table and saying to yourself, I say to myself, no matter how convinced I am about anything, I will always allow there to be a doubt. I think this is essential. And civilization fundamentally discourages doubt and uncertainty. And uncertainty is a principle, even among the quack whitecoats, quantum bastards, who have tried to infiltrate our mind through the uncertainty principle and all this. It's not an uncertainty principle at all. It's an analogy that they're piggybacking on what it is we feel within ourselves anyway. This doubt, this uncertainty. So they've created a whole mathematical model around it. The whitecoats have, the quantum whitecoats, the Feynmans, the dopes, the retards on the planet, because they're intellectually, their brains on legs, as I understand, as I see them, as I interpret them. Not that they don't have entertainment value. I mean, some of them are very entertaining, like Einstein, very entertaining. So what I'm saying, I want to go into this they thing, why the boxcar is so easily done, why things are working so easily for this system of civilization, how this system that has been in place for thousands and thousands of years has, in essence, formed us the way we are to be so compliant. We always, we pride ourselves, we pound our chests on being individuals, and we wear torn pants from the Gap, and we say, we're individuals. We have our own fashion, or we are the gender issues now. Everybody has a gender now. I mean, there is so many different genders. Oh, we're so individual. When in essence, there is a balanced human being. Whatever ornaments you have around a balanced human being is irrelevant. We're looking for that core balanced human being who is uncertain about the things that really matter, because we learn through life what really matters, experiences. We form our opinions. Like when I make paintings, the more paintings I make, the more I am capable of making decisions based on experiences that I had of using, for example, color combinations or whatever it is that I'm producing. I'm finding things out. Okay, so here's the thing. Who is the they? Who are the bastards? Who are these bastards? Who are these scumbags that are extracting the soul from us? Who are these people that are responsible for for implementing the policies of our own destruction? And I go back to Matt, and he said that it's basically us. And by that he meant all the people who are certain in their compliance, in their conformity. So, yes, I agree. There are very likely pockets of people that tweak how we actually feel compelled to comply. These are people, not the front types, not the Bushes, not the baby Bushes, not the Clintons, not the Trudeaus. These are just front people. They don't even tweak us in terms of the direction that they want us to go into. They're just complying on a higher level than we are complying. There is some sort of an agreement. It's innate. This is a mystery too, how this is easily passed on from generation to generation. And then you'll have like dynasty, like the Kennedy dynasty or the royal dynasties, the people that are functioning within an extended system of compliance and conformity that keeps the ball, that keeps the train, that keeps the boat going in the same direction all the time. So the they is this overwhelming, this extensive system of ritual behavior that has continued for the entire written history and being tweaked. And this is the closest I would come to the they, being tweaked and propped, pushed in certain directions at certain times. Like the media obviously can do this very well with propaganda. We've seen this clearly with Goebbels and Nazi Germany. I come back to this, but it's just as bad now because the media is controlled by maybe a very small consortium, corporate consortium, that wherever the directives are coming from, the they is fundamentally compliance with this overall concept that we're part of, called civilization and culture. And the greatest resistance that we can mount, I mean, in small ways, like don't wear a mask, when you know it's a bunch of hooey, they're just making it up in order to tweak us to go in a certain direction, that this they concept always comes back to the individual in conformity and compliance. So that idea, this nurse took the vaccine. I don't know if she would have, at this point, if she would have had any doubt. It would have been good if she did have enough doubt to question and say, well, I'll wait a little bit. I'll see what happens. Yeah, it's like the guinea pigs out there that are willing, with open arms to say, give it to me, give it to me. Well, okay, you go ahead. You can make that choice. I'm sorry you are that way, but okay, fine. And now what we see is the result based on somebody else's suffering. Now, and if suffering would ever have made the world a better place, we should be geniuses by now. I don't know who said this. Like if suffering was, how people always say, well, if you suffer, this is something that makes us learn. And I mean, I did learn from suffering. I put my finger into a fire or touched something really hot. I learned from that. I suffered. But generally speaking, if the human race, the human family, if suffering was some kind of indication of becoming wise, well, it hasn't worked. Because suffering has been one of the biggest sort of ongoing ritualistic it's a repetition. History is a record of wars and killing and suffering and murder and mayhem. This is 98% of history. 2% is like enlightenment, like Mozart or Bach or you have Velasquez, or you have your highlights within this so-called civilization, but the predominant part is a ritualistic reenactment of the worst, and we're the reason why this is happening. And the they who tweak, there isn't like a think tank behind everything making us go the direction they want us to go. They merely tweak things, and then we're like totally, okay, let's take that back. Everybody else is doing it, so I guess I have to do it. There's a lot more here in terms of civilization and culture, but this covers the fundamental issue of the they, which, as Matt says, comes back to us. And I say it's not something that is easily overcome from the point of view that as children, even early on, 2, 3, 4, 5, this is so embedded in us to comply, to keep our head down, and you don't get rewarded if you step out of line. You get rewarded if you stay in line. All the awards are basically for the people that do what they're told to do. This is anything. If you're doing Academy Awards or whatever, all the people that are told to do what to do get the awards. And even if they don't look like they're following the company line, they are following the company line because they're icons. All the icons are doing it. What I'm hoping with these rants, these ideas I have about our circumstance, is to initiate enough doubt, and in terms of the credibility that I might have. Let's say a person says, well, who the hell are you? Well, true. It's like, who the hell am I? Big deal. The reason I have paintings behind me all the time, it's like when a person has, in my experience, the people that I admired were people that dedicated themselves to an activity and they became really good at it. And then it kind of spills over into other things. It's not just like they're the Amazon woman who can draw a bow perfectly and annihilate her enemies. I'm saying it crosses over into a larger perspective, a kind of wisdom, I suppose. So what I found about myself, I am much more ironically convinced about things, I'm convinced about being uncertain, which is a good thing. It's like, I'm certain to be uncertain. I like this feeling of uncertainty within me because it opens up. My mind allows me to react and act a way that makes me feel more balanced. And I think this is something that has been extracted through civilization and culture, that this balanced feeling in us is discouraged. We're taught to accept things that we haven't tried for ourselves. Like my paintings, I need to make my paintings in order to verify something for myself, not just to say, oh, that painter is brilliant and that individual is, yeah, I can admire a lot of people, but I need to do it for myself. And we all need to do this for ourselves from a very nitty-gritty way, whether you cook your own meals in a way that give you nourishment, not just accept the fast food or the shit that is being served. Make it a point to improve your life, to become a balanced human being. And the only way we can do that, forget about the they. Think about the me, the I, what my part is in not complying with all the things that don't work. Anyway, I think that's enough for today. And I was very disturbed by this woman's. I expect this to be a lot more, to see not people dying from a beer virus, but people being afflicted, being suffering from the man's directives that are coming down on us, like from Mount Olympus, and people are saying, well, it's from Mount Olympus, so you got to do it. So our suffering will increase exponentially the less we verify the things that we want to truly be for ourselves, what it is within us that we're capable of, what I call our birthright. We gotta get to that feeling within us that we're acting our birthright. Whichever way you can do that for yourself, you have to figure that out. And it's not gonna happen, I really, really doubt it's gonna happen through compliance. You have to verify stuff for yourself. That's how I have experienced the thing. Why am I so adamant about this? This present phenomenal hysteria, unprecedented worldwide. How completely boxcar oriented the human family has become, without any. No one is allowed to raise an objection to the company line. It seemed to be a lot more possible, with voices like Tom Wolfe or Gore Vidal or even Mailer or other critics. I mean, Emile Zola. You had these. Like culture even permitted these people to exist, but right now it's like virtual zipper lips. Everyone has retreated like turtles into their shell. And that's why I really have no affection for the icons out there, those people that are supposedly giving us, inspiring us to be a certain way. Yeah, to wear those ripped pants, the baggy ripped pants. It's like this is the level of culture now. It's disintegrated into a weird sort of pablum of, oh, yeah, it feels like an unnourishing pablum. Anyway, they, who is they?